What's up, you guys? We're back for Do That But Better. I'm Zach.
I'm Eric.
And Eric, we just had a fantastic weekend.
I know I wanted to ask you how you're feeling after that.
I'm feeling all right. So strangely enough, I think that it was mostly sleep deprivation that really caught up with me. Like the next day, my feet hurt pretty well. So if nobody knows what we're talking about, we did a charity event here, and we did 24 hero workouts in 24 hours. So a different workout each hour, and it was an absolute blast. And I'll tell you what, as an adult, there's not too many times that you get to have a sleepover with a bunch of your friends and just stay out all night, and it was just rock star, and it was lit all day, every hour. It was there was quite a few people every single hour rocking this out, and it was just a ton of fun. And really watching people after seeing people in a gym, and you do an hour workout and it's like, oh my gosh, and then all of a sudden see somebody do 10 and it's like it changes your perception on what hard is, and really even just how to go about things. So like when you're working out, all right, how much work do I have to do? The difference between a 10-minute workout and a 20-minute workout. But now it's like, how about a 10-minute workout and 6 hours of doing things, and do it while you're sleep deprived? And such a fun event. We had such a great outpouring of people just. So we had Enzo's Italian beef. He donated a bunch of protein bowls, and so you could, for a free will donation, you got a protein bowl. So he was keeping us fueled. People just bringing in fruit and donuts and coffee, and so there was never a lack of fuel, even if it was coffee mostly. I feel like I drank like 6 gallons of coffee over those 24 hours.
That's cool.
But yeah, and actually I feel like pretty much everyone is feeling pretty darn good. Just a little bit tired, a little bit sore, but really not too bad. And everyone's rocking it. And we raised $1,890. $1,890.
Awesome.
So super, or was it 1,980? I can't remember now. I'm gonna have to go back and look. I was just informed this morning, but also I am doing 1 calorie on the bike for every dollar that we raised. So I've got a good 4 hours on the bike coming up, which is.
I was just at a gym for their barbells and boobs.
Yeah.
Barbells for boobs a couple weeks ago, and the coaches were doing a burpee for every dollar raised, and it was like,
Oof.
it was like $2,000, I think.
That's a lot.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was a lot of burpees.
Now, did they get to split them?
No, I think they all did all of them.
That's
Yep.
legit.
Couple hours of
Dedication.
burpees.
Man, now I'm gonna have to do something for
Yep.
burpees.
Wondering for your members, because I did a 24-hour event spring of 2020. And I feel like the big takeaway for me was how much you are actually capable of, like in that time period,
Yeah.
instead of like that super high intensity, like sprinting for 10 minutes and you're totally wiped, of like, all right, I've got 24 hours. It's a whole
Right.
different pace, and it's like very eye-opening though. Like, you can cover a lot of miles, you can lift a lot of weight
Yeah.
with that, which is kind of fun to see. You're like, man, I can do a lot.
Yeah. I would love to see. So when you start looking over all the workouts that we did, there was a ton of running. There was multiple workouts where it was like 4.5 miles and stuff like that. Now you got to share it, so you weren't necessarily doing all of them. But I would love to know the amount of work that was done. How many miles were ran, how many, and it's very easy to figure out, but I'm not going to. But it would be really cool to see exactly how much work was done. And man, yeah, just the constant move. Now, granted, like when you're doing something like this, especially when you're doing it with multiple people, there it ended up being quite a bit of work rest. So you're able to do a lot more just by taking that pace and taking a little bit of rest in between. And then, because we were starting on the hour, it was like, it was like maybe 30 minutes of work, 30 minutes of rest and hanging out. So it just really made the time go by pretty quickly. But somebody was just telling me about a race, or it wasn't even a race, it was just a challenge. It was doing a mile every hour for 24 hours. And he was saying that like the guy who did it, he seemed pretty fit and all that, but getting to those later hours, it was like, oh man, it's a lot harder than you think. And I mean, if you're not used to doing 24 miles, it's a lot of miles. It doesn't matter how long. So, but yeah, there's an ultra, and I forgot what it's called, but it's sometime around Halloweenish, because it's like the Day of the Dead or something, and it's like 30 miles, but it's 4 miles every hour, or it's like a death by. So where if you can't finish the 4 miles, then you're done. But if you do it, then you're gonna hit 30 miles. And I thought that would be a really cool way to do an ultra.
There's one, I think it's in Scandinavia somewhere, in some town, where it's walking.
Really?
And the last person standing wins.
Oh, man.
And so there's just like a pace, and you have to stay ahead of that pace, just walking, and it just keeps going until everyone's out.
That's insane.
Yep. Man, can you imagine in your limit of like, I can't walk anymore?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, so those are the things that I actually really love. I've always thought, hey, I hate endurance, but I love the mental aspect of it. And you start going, do I really need to stop? And, like lots of times when you're doing a race or something like that, it's like, it ends there, and it's like, all right, well, I can go till that. And when there is no finish line, like what a difference that can make. And you go, all right, am I willing to do this or not?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
There's one I've heard of that it must be through an app or something, where everyone starts at the same time wherever you are, ready, set, go, and you start running. And then after like 10 minutes, this like virtual pace starts moving, but you don't know what it is. And so once it hits you, you like get notified you're out. Like it caught you.
Oh, wow.
And so you're trying to stay ahead of that pace that you don't know where it is.
Oh, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I would be so pissed. I'm sprinting for no reason.
Right. Anyway.
Well, yeah. So this actually is a great topic that actually goes right along with our 24-hour event, because right now we've after doing 24 hours of work, and many people were here for a crap ton of hours, and now you go back into training. And one of the big things is that what we did over this weekend was not training. This was a test. And you're not getting better because of this thing. Now, like you get to see where you're at and what you can push through and things like that. But now coming back to training, it's like, how much should I train? And when it comes to training, it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. And actually, we had somebody ask us just recently, what about training as you're aging? And this is a huge, this topic has just a lot of facets to it, because it's not just, well, here's what you should do. And so as we're training, so let's call us masters. I don't know if you technically count yet. At least not in the CrossFit Games, right?
I think so. I think
35?
it's 35. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
So
up.
you're not even a master. But I mean you can call me master if you want. I've already been in it for multiple years. But just as you age, training is going to be different. But that doesn't mean that you don't train. And CrossFit has always had the mantra that the needs of the Olympic athlete and your grandma they differ by degree and not kind, right? So we all need to have the same. We need strength, we need agility, we need endurance, we need speed, we need coordination, we need flexibility. I don't know how many I just said there, but we need all these things, accuracy. But how much do we need? And how much do we need to train them? And how are we going to train them is going to be different for everybody. And I feel like CrossFit sometimes gets a bad name because people see things that people are doing in the CrossFit Games, which these are top athletes in the world, and you go, well, my grandma can't do that, or I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that. I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is dive into this a little bit and start looking at what exactly we need to do as we're aging and how to figure out what we really should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just like anything else. I think the steps that you take for someone who is a master's athlete are the same steps you take with an 18-year-old walking in the gym as well, right? Like you're asking yourself, okay, what's your training history, your training age,
right?
Like where are you right now and where do you want to get to, right? Like what are you capable of right now as far as range of motion, strength, endurance, like what can we do right now? And we're going to customize, right? Not scaling, customize the workouts to you, just like we would anyone else.
Right.
But it is that first assessment of like getting real with yourself of where am I right now and what's the best option for me right now.
Right. Yeah. And so when it comes to these things, like you were saying, there's some criteria that we have to hit, and we have, what are your goals? And we can split this up into two categories. Is it wellness or performance? And for all intents and purposes, you could do this with a younger athlete also. And when we say athlete, I am considering anybody who is moving, anybody who's doing any type of training. What you want to do is find out what is your goal. Am I just trying to be well? Am I looking to perform my daily tasks as well as I can? Am I looking to improve my health? The list goes on here. And then when it comes to performance, what's that?
Avoiding injury, avoiding surgeries down the line.
Yeah. And then if we're looking at performance, we are looking for points on a board. And not just in the CrossFit world. I'm talking about, hey, I want to be able to dunk. I want to be faster stealing second base, or whatever it is. Whatever the thing that you really like to do, and where we're actually competing. And the message when it comes down to this athlete is going to be a little bit different depending on what those goals are. All right. Now, one of the biggest things when you're setting up your goals is, I feel like wellness and performance, we sometimes get a little bit lost in. You go, I really want to be healthy. You're like, but I want a 400-pound back squat, right? And you got to go, number one, when do you want it? How important is it to you? And what will you get from it? Like, so is it actually a goal, or is it like, hey, that'd be really cool? And And what are you willing to give up for that? Like, are you willing to give up wellness? And so really, really having a good conversation with yourself can help us find what this really is. And I think that even in the group setting, sometimes even though our real goal might be wellness, we get a little bit lost in like, should I put a little bit more on? Right? Or should I do a little bit more? That's even I think that might even be a little bit more important is when people start thinking, hey, I need to do more volume. And really it's just like, all right, is this going to push me forward? And like I was talking about with our 24-hour event and now coming into training, right now, I could go really hard. Like I still feel like I could push it pretty hard, but will it be beneficial? There's that saying that everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And right now, I think that physically, I could still do pretty much what I could do, but recovery-wise and just like trying to catch up on my sleep.
Yeah.
It's like these are the things that will really push me forward if I take a little bit of a break and maybe not have as much volume, maybe not go as heavy, but still keep moving, because everybody, again, the needs of the Olympic athlete and the grandma, they differ by degree, not kind. I should still squat. I should still walk or maybe jog, or like yesterday I hit the bike and I did some muscle snatches with a barbell. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I'm still moving, but I could,
Yeah, it's like I could do this RX, mm-hmm. but let's see. So we talk a lot about like what is the intended stimulus of the workout, mm-hmm. which maybe you could even maintain that going as with the typical weights and movements you would. But the other question is, what stimulus do you need right now? Right. And so like in this case, like you might need a recovery day. So maybe you come in and you do the workout and you scale stuff back, and maybe you go a little bit slower than you normally would, so that you're moving, you're sweating, and you're recovering versus taxing yourself trying to get that adaptation.
For sure. We actually had multiple people who came in yesterday, and they're like, man, after doing the workout, and they did it just, they had fun. They got a little bit sweaty, they got a little bit out of breath, and they're like, I feel better. Yeah. It was just letting your joints go through the motion and getting your heart rate up a little bit. And remember that high intensity doesn't always have to be max intensity. If we have high intensity, that means we also have moderate, we have low, right? It's not just max. And anything over 70%, let's say, is still pretty darn high. And guess what? If you hit 60% today, you're still doing pretty darn good, and you're not stressing your body out as much. And that can be super beneficial too.
Yeah. And I think what's kind of underlying what we're talking about right now is like self-awareness, mm-hmm. being able to tell, am I fatigued from my workouts and I need a recovery day, or am I just feeling a little tired and being a baby?
Right.
Those are two different things. And I know, I spent a lot of time following CrossFit.com, mm-hmm. which does 3 workouts, 3 days on and 1 rest day. It just keeps with that cycle. And I did that for a long time. And then there was a point, I feel like right around like 28 or so, where doing 3 days of like actually going hard mm-hmm. was just not beneficial. By the 3rd day, I was just so beat up that it was pointless to do a workout. And I was like, you know what? It's way better to do 2 days on, 1 day off, and like go through that cycle and whatever, adjust it however. Because my recovery was just way better, which then meant that my workouts were way better.
Right.
And just so having that self-awareness of like, what is working best for me as far as, when to train hard, when to recover. That's a huge thing as you progress, as we get older. Because yeah, I mean there are hormone changes, lifestyle changes,
Yeah.
families, work changes, like sleep changes. So whatever lifestyle, whatever season of life you're in right now, like figuring out what's best for my body right now, what works best for my schedule and for my body.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, this is a moving target because you're always aging, and yeah, all your responsibilities, your hormones, your, I mean, just think about even when it comes to weight loss, the things that you could do at 18 versus 25 versus 30 versus 35 versus 40, they're going to be different. And actually, I had one of our members, Carolyn, she was talking about this, and she's like, she's like, I just want to be at like a maintenance. And we were talking about it, and I was like, you might never get there, because whether it's my activity changes, my whatever, it's like I got to keep relearning what my body needs. And if you assume that you know exactly what you need, you're in for a rude awakening in a year or so.
Yeah. You've probably been doing it long enough that it's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so all right, so we got our goals, right? Then we have to look at what is my fitness level entering into exercise. And we can talk about training age. So have you ever trained before? Right? And especially if we're doing this later in life, it's like, all right, how much have I trained? Did I play sports? Have I stayed active my whole life? What was I really active and now I'm not active? Mm-hmm. Right? And so when we start looking at any of these things, this is the prescription is going to be a little bit different for each of these people, right? So what they can handle right now is going to look a little bit different. Do you have any strength imbalances or things like that from years of training or playing a sport or something like that? Or am I starting new right this second?
Yeah, like old injuries, limited range of motion,
Right.
Be able to give yourself an honest assessment and a thorough assessment. Especially, right. I think about, what are the most common injuries? Like men tearing their Achilles, tearing their ACL, injuring their shoulders, right? Thrown out your back. Like, these are the things that I'm always thinking about of like, okay, how do we prevent that? So, right, that always gets into like box jumps and sprinting, things like that. Like, how do we, those are the things to be aware of and start building up. So doing some like prehab shoulder stuff regularly with bands, right? We need to start doing some things to build up your tendons and your ankle and in your knees, because those are the, once you're like over 40, 35 or 40, like the odds of those breaking goes way up. And so being aware of that and starting to train with that in mind.
For sure. And especially when...
Or getting to that age.
Yeah. When you... so especially for somebody who has been very active, maybe they were playing sports, they played high school, and they got into the work world, and now all of a sudden they're like, hey, I'm 35, 40, whatever it is, and I can do this, right? We have these ideas of what we were able to do, and now we have a big break, and you go, all right, I can, and your body might be able to, but it's like, how much can it handle? And so now we have to look at volume. And if you look at professional athletes, whether it's in the CrossFit space or otherwise, one of the biggest things is, what kind of volume can they take? How many snaps can you take now? And how in the CrossFit world, most of the masters athletes just talk about how they just need to reduce the volume. Intensity can still be kept high, but you need to start lowering the reps, and this could be up to 70% of what you might have been able to do at a younger age. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I don't need that stimulus as much.
Yep. And with fewer reps, that means higher quality rep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like
Yeah.
paying attention, what are the things that I really need to do? And how well am I doing?
Right. Now, you also have to start thinking about age. And when it comes to age, so masters are, so we've got early and late, right? And so an early master would be somebody under 55, and a late master would be somebody over 55. Now, that is an arbitrary number, and there could be all kinds of differentiating. I wish somebody knew this word. Differentiating characteristics when it comes to this, and we all age differently. But if you're coming in at 35 versus 45 versus 50, and now throw in fitness level again, everything could look a little bit different. If I'm 35 and never trained, if I'm 45 and never trained, or I'm 55 and never trained, right? Everything's going to look a little bit different, and we have to have considerations as we move here, because, like you said, hormones change, elasticity changes as we get older, muscle mass is lost. You might start losing or not producing as much testosterone, and all kinds of things are going to happen, and we need to be conscious of this as we start training, because this is going to affect building strength, this is going to affect recovery, and a host of other things that will affect, can I do this in the long term? And then, like you talked about, then we have to look at, all right, am I injured, or was I injured? And we can even take injury and expand it into disease, right? Do I have type 2 diabetes? Do I have a heart condition, right? And when I start looking at all these things, so my goals, my age, my fitness level, and my injury state, now we can start setting things up into quadrants, right? Am I an early master who's already pretty fit? I'm looking for performance, and I'm uninjured, right? This is a pretty good setup, and really this is what you want ideally, right? Oh, and actually we can even change that up and say, all right, I'm an early master, I'm fit, I'm uninjured, and I want to be healthy, right? So instead of training for performance, possibly even better, right? Because we're a little bit less at risk of injury. And if you're thinking about training as a master, and you are thinking about training for performance, like you really want to push this stuff, you are more at risk of injury, right? Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to get better. That doesn't mean we don't want to get stronger or faster or anything like that. But we have a little bit more time, and the things that we're going to do can be more looking at the long game, because I don't have a competition at the end of the year that I need to win.
Right. Like you can leave some weight on the bar on maxed out deadlift day, and hit your technical max, not totally crush yourself, risk injury, going higher, like that. Or recognizing that there are movements that feel, like for me, I know that in dip, I can only do so much in a circle. Like if I'm doing dips on bars, rings that shoulder a little bit. So I pay attention. Like, okay, I'm not going to spend rings because I don't.
Right.
And you can make those decisions versus if you got a competition, like have to be on the ring, have to be training them.
Right. You have to perform the movements that are in the competition, right?
Yeah.
And And if not, then we have all the time to work on them, as long as we are able to do the things that we need to do. If I want to be able to move furniture in my house, if I want to be able to play with my kids, if I want to be the strongest dad on the block, like whatever it is, it's like, as long as you're doing that, then keep doing it, and we can slowly and incrementally increase to still get performance goals without focusing on a specific performance. But now that we have these 4 criteria, so like our goals, our age, our fitness level, and injury state, you can start messing around with these, and you've got, all right, hey, I'm a wellness athlete, I'm an early master, I'm deconditioned, and I have an injury, right? And now, once again, we can change this up and go, all right, this is what I'm looking for. This is the situation that I'm in, and this is how I can start working towards my goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like you got a clear starting point, a clear destination. Now you can fill in the roadmap.
Right. So now a couple things when we are looking at a wellness athlete, right? There's little need for risk of injury, right? So like you were saying with the ring dips, and so now when you're looking at the things that you're doing, you can look at each step, like what is the progression to this movement, and why do I want to do it? And whether it's, hey, it's ring dips, it's like, well, how good am I at dips, right? And yes, I do want to progress to that because it shows more stability, right? But if I don't need to specifically do a ring dip, it's like, if I'm getting this motion, I can build that stability, like even more stability on the shaky rings later on. So today I don't need to do it. But again, if you are in a competition, you need to do ring dips.
Yeah. And even, I mean, like with an example like that, you could build stability doing planks on the rings, mm-hmm. and then do your dips on the bars, where like, right? So like if you're looking for that stability in your shoulder, but something like this, like rings, is aggravating it, there are other options for building stability in your shoulder that might not be that ring dip. So you can find other accessory things to develop those skills and abilities that aren't going to aggravate old injuries and things like that.
Right. And like you were saying, like I liked that you said when you do ring dips that I'm only going to do so many, because this is a great way to control the stimulus of your training. And so as a master, so like I was talking about, possibly reducing the volume. So hey, we're going to be doing 5 sets of 10 ring dips, right? Well, it's like, maybe I know that I'm just going to do sets of 6, and that's it's going to be totally fine. You're going to be able to work at your capacity, and you can even start setting total rep ranges for a week, right? So maybe that you can do plenty of strict pull-ups, and I know that if I'm doing kipping pull-ups, it starts to hurt my shoulder, right? Well, how many can I handle in a week? Mm-hmm. And you might have, let's say that I can handle 100 kipping pull-ups in a week, but I can handle more pull-ups than that, right? So now I might say, hey, I'm gonna make sure that when we're working out, I'm only gonna do X amount. So now, if I have Angie, I have to decide, and Angie is 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, if I'm not mistaken, right? Now I might go, all right, do I have other pull-ups that I want to do in this week? Or do I want to test myself on this, and then I'm going to take it easy for the rest of the week? So now starting to plan out your week. Actually, I have a member who was coming off a foot injury, and so it was funny. So they were cleared to be working out again, but they're like, no jumping. You're a November jumper, so you can't jump till November. And so now that they're back jumping, we're keeping the jumping to a minimum. So number one, they run a lot, so they're already getting plenty of pounding on their feet, on their joints, and whatever. We're not really limiting jump rope, but we're limiting double unders and any kind of box jumps. Is like, all right, if you're doing some, like we want to limit it to this much a week, and anything else, you're doing step-ups. Maybe we're doing kettlebell swings to get just a nice little hip pop. Just we're changing it up because they are a wellness, right? And they don't necessarily need this movement, but they need to be able to still jump and things like that. So we still want them to move.
Yeah.
So now when you look at, all right, so we've got age, we're possibly limiting volume, and then we've got conditioning, right? And now this is huge, because if you are a master and you're pretty darn fit, right? Now, depending on where you're at, so how old am I? How fit am I? And when is the last time that I was fitnessing, right? So again, like, have I had a large break? Was it 5 years? Was it 1 year? And if you're 25 and you take a year off, it might be a little bit different than if you're 35 and you take a year off. And this is where you really got to be careful, because the risk factors are higher. So the older you are, the longer the break, right? But also the higher intensity that you had prior to, and the gap of time, again, your body might be able to push pretty hard, but it's not actually ready for it. And returning to training might take a little bit longer, or just a slower process than what you want to.
Yeah.
And this is where this was huge in the earlier days of CrossFit with rhabdo. So rhabdo is a condition where you overuse your muscles, and it basically breaks down and it gets into your bloodstream. It can shut down your kidneys, and people can actually die. They usually see this in like military and things like that, because they're just pushing so hard. But that person who was very like a high level athlete takes a small break, their body's not as conditioned as they were, but they're still pretty darn fit, and they're able to push really hard. Now, if you're deconditioned, or if you've never done anything, you probably can't push hard enough to make yourself do that.
Yeah.
But so ramping it up slowly is going to be super important for that person who is fit or was fit when you're stepping into new training.
Yeah, man, we had a member once who he was actually a manager at like a 24-hour fitness or something, but said he could never get a workout in because people are always talking to him. So he came to the gym. He had been a D1 football player, 10 or 15 years before, and we were bench pressing, and it was like one of his first days. And I mean, he's like, I got more. And we keep putting on, and we're at like 300 pounds. He's just repping them out. And I'm like, dude, when's the last time you benched? And it had been a long time. I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
We don't need to max out today. Like 300 for reps, I think you're fine. We'll build up more next time.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows what that guy could have done, but also who knows what weight his tendons would have torn at. you know?
Right. Yeah, and actually, that's one of the biggest problems with that demographic. So, so that fit master, and they're coming back to training. So number one, they often seek like higher volume, right? And no, I got to do more. I got to do more. I got to get back into this. I got to catch up, right? And so they're resisting. They're resisting rest days. They're looking for that add-on stuff instead of just hitting that workout, making sure that you're doing consistent, and they're basically overreaching, and because they have done it before, or they just mentally, we want to be able to say, I can still do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, all right, that's fine, but what is our goal right now?
Yeah.
But in the same token, somebody who is very deconditioned is also going to be at some risk, right? So, one of the worst things that you can do is have poor technique and low muscle tone, right? So it's like, all right, hey, let's start doing stuff. So same thing. We're gonna have to start working these two demographics in slowly, a little bit differently, but still, hey, we're gonna slowly ramp this up. They might be unfamiliar with feeling really sore, and obviously, like, the goal of exercise is not to feel sore, but it's going to happen, especially if you are doing something new that you've never done, mm-hmm. or something that you haven't done in a long time. And number one, they might be more apt to quit because they're like, oh my goodness, like this is really hurting, and maybe I'm just getting hurt. And I'll tell you what, I feel like one of the worst things that that person could do is stop. And really, it's just like, all right, if you want to do a little bit less, that's totally fine. But it can be very demotivating if you're like, oh my gosh, like, this is a new thing. Maybe you're doing things that neurologically they haven't done. And it's like, this is too hard. And so you're going to find these problems. And, it's a little bit different with a kid. I think that a kid is looking to learn. They feel like they don't know stuff. They're like, when I get older, I'm going to know everything. But now if you're an adult and you don't know something, it's really freaking hard to jump into this new thing and say, hey, guess what? I'm going to suck at this.
Yeah. Well, and even like the mental aspect. I know we've talked about this before. Like, if you're starting out and you've never done any of this stuff before, recognizing the difference between the pain of effort and the pain of injury is a skill of like, this hurts. Well, like, are your muscles burning? Because that's a good thing, right? Like, and just the mental side of like being able to push yourself and recognizing what you're capable of. Like that's a whole nother skill set, right? On the one end, you have the people who mentally are like, oh, I can do all of this, but their body's not ready. And then the other side, where like your body is ready to do more than you've ever actually made it do, but mentally you've never been there, right? You've never pushed yourself to that limit. Mm-hmm. And so those are like the two extremes coming into this, where like we've got to find that middle ground of it's that sweet spot of improvement, right? Of getting your mind and body in the same spot.
Absolutely. Yep. And so now we've got injuries, right? So especially if you are over 30 and you have been active in any capacity, you're going to have aches and pains. I feel like you can't, you can't not, right? And so there might be things that you have to work around. Maybe you have old sports injuries. You blew your knee out, this and that, and so these are things that you're going to have to be working around or working with in some capacity. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it. And so looking into what are my goals again, and what kind of movements do I need to do, and what kind do I not need to do, related to my injury.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think with shoulders, again, like I always think that's what I always recognize is horrible shoulder range of motion and stability, and then like hips and knees. And so paying attention to like what is really necessary here. Like, do we have to be able to press all the way overhead? Or like, can we do an incline bench and maybe just keep increasing that and start gaining more range of motion? Because you don't have to go from 0 to full range of motion day one.
Right.
Like, what are you capable of, and what's best for, improving the condition of whatever joints or movement that you're working on.
Right. And what did you just say that it really got me thinking? Let's see, the injuries.
Increasing range of motion.
Oh yeah. So one of the biggest indicators of a developing injury is a previous injury. So this is, if you have had an injury, now you need to be more careful, right? You need to be more conscious. And if you are not in high school, you don't need to be pushing through pain of injury, right? But like you said, you can push through pain of effort. Mm-hmm. And so if you are having pain, number one, you have to find, can it get better with a warm-up? And this is huge, because if it's getting worse, then you really have to stop, and you need to find out what you need to do about it. But if you have an injury, you're going to feel it. It's like all the people who go up, it's going to rain, I can feel it in my knees, right? Those are things that you're gonna feel, and there's nothing you can do about that, right? And you're gonna feel that. And the same thing goes for somebody who doesn't have an injury. Like, you're gonna, if they've never had one yet, right? If you are active, you're gonna feel stuff, and that's okay. But the injury is not, right? And so if you are not training for performance, where you are trying to win a game, it's like, I don't need these things. And if you are doing workouts often where you're going right, because something is weird, right, then you're probably doing something a little bit wrong, and you are more at risk of injury. But on the opposite end, if you're not doing anything, where that is a little bit difficult, you're possibly at risk of injury also, because it means that you, if anything ever does get hard, you're not ready for it.
Yeah. What do they say? Like, you work out, there's a chance you'll get injured. If you don't work out, you'll for sure get injured.
Absolutely. Yep. But yeah. So, yeah, I think that more or less, like, wrapping all this stuff up, right? We have to find out who we are. Like, when we look at these criteria, right? Do I have an injury or disease that's going to be affecting me? How old am I? What fitness level am I at right now? Have I had any kind of fitness level before? Like, and so I guess, what is my training age? Like, what is my actual age? What is my training age? And then what are my goals? And when you're looking at this stuff, we can find what our limitations are. We can find what would actually help me to be better. And just remember that as a master's athlete, you do not need to stop training. Or just as somebody who is aging, you do not need to stop training. We need to adjust our training to our lifestyle at the time. and what those goals are, where we're at, and just remember that training is, training is going to be a moving target. Like how we train, because the right thing right now is not going to be the same for later, and that's going to be okay. But if you keep thinking that I'm learning instead of like I know what to do, I think that it'll keep us less injured, having a little bit more fun, and feeling more capable in everything that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, Masters, keep training. Eric, you're going to be there one day.
No. You know what's funny is when they added in the Masters division in the CrossFit Games,
Yeah.
thought was, oh, sweet. Like all the top athletes, they're going to be worn down, and I'm just playing the long game. I'm going to keep training nice and easy, and then be in the games for the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out all those top athletes are still really good.
They are ridiculous. They are absolutely ridiculous.
Even like the guy like in their 60s, those guys are unbelievable.
They are absolutely insane. I forgot what that one guy's name is that keeps on winning the 55 and over. It's like,
Yeah.
But he's got some awesome name like Iron Steel or something like that. It's like the most appropriate name ever. But yeah, it's really cool seeing what humans are capable of, and it really gives you something to shoot for. And now obviously you don't have to be shooting for that, but you go, oh, guess what? I can do a lot more things than I thought I could.
Right. And
So.
for the younger people, like recognize that the guys on that end never stop.
Yeah.
Right? Like we had a guy, he was huge. He was like, had been lifting weights his whole life, and 65-year-old guy comes in, deadlifts 5.
Wow.
You're like, holy crap. Right?
Yeah.
Like, probably can't really press overhead super well. But, man, that guy was strong. And, I mean, it's just consistent.
That's awesome. Yep.
If they planted a tree 20 years ago, second best today.
There you go.
So, whether you're young or old, keep training. Keep that consistent.
That's right. And regulate your volume.
Yep.
All right. We will see you guys next week. Eric, if they want to reach out to you, I know you're doing some nutrition coaching and things like that. Where can they find you?
Yeah. Just hit me, Eric McGathy, at Eric McGathy, Instagram, and on Facebook.
And Eric with an A and a K.
Yeah. ARIK.
Awesome. And you guys can reach out to us at CrossFit at CrossFit Chicago Heights on Facebook or Instagram, and you guys can watch these if you don't catch them live on YouTube. So we will see you guys later.
Yeah.